Hello and welcome to Studio Talk, coming to you live from Tokyo. I'm Miho Kamizaki, and on this fully interactive web TV show, I'm joined by two of the key figures driving the global response to the planet's loss of biodiversity. Ahmet Zhuglaf is Executive Secretary of the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, and Yasuaki Nagaishi is the Secretary General of OISCA, the Organization for Industrial, Spiritual and Cultural Advancement, based right here in Japan. Welcome to the show, both of you, and thank you for joining us. Now, we are live today, so if you have any questions for either of our guests, please use the box on your screen, or if you're tweeting while watching the show, please use the hashtag #UNBiodiversity, and we'll put your question straight to them. We are in the first year of the United Nations Decade on Biodiversity. The decade was officially launched at a global event in Kanazawa, Japan this weekend, matter of fact. And Japanese government organizations played a huge part in the conception of the decade. And this is one of the reasons we are here today in Japan. But before we get into the details, we should provide our viewers with some additional background. Ahmet, I have a question for you. Now, this is a kind of a technical sounding term, isn't it, biodiversity? What do we mean by this and why it's so important?
Biodiversity is the variability of living organisms from all sources, the terrestrial, the marine, the aquatic ecosystem, and the ecological complexes to which they belong, including, of course, variability among species, variability between species, and variability of ecosystem. So this is a scientific definition. And as you know, scientists sometimes tend to speak to themselves.
Right.
So I will give you a very simple definition. We like to say biodiversity is life. So biodiversity is the food, is the 10,000 species that we use of plants that we use to sustain ourselves. It's the fish, is the livestock, it's the air that we breathe, it's the forest, it's the economy, it's our health, it's the finance,
right.
And it's also our spiritual value.
It's just all about our life, isn't it?
It's a life,
indeed?
and therefore
and we do understand this is such an important issue because it's all about our life. But why should governments and businesses care about this, especially during this difficult time of economic downturn?
I think this is one of the misrepresentations that we need to get rid of it. The dichotomy or the contradiction between economy, government expenditure, and biodiversity. Protecting life and protecting biodiversity is not an expenditure. It's an investment. You invest in your future. You invest in your economy. It's like any CEO of any company who wants to protect its capital. So therefore, he has to invest in this. So it's not a it's not a cost. It's not an expenditure. And as long as the government will continue to believe that spending money for biodiversity and environment is just expenditure, I think we will continue to face the problem that we are having. So because I think it's the basis of life, and there is no price to protect life on Earth.
And it's never ending, isn't it? We need to continue with this, to live in harmony with nature.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, we actually have a short film here that will help us understand this biodiversity more. So take a look.
The diversity of life on Earth is truly amazing.
From dazzling colored coral reefs to majestic lions on the savannah, a butterfly sipping nectar from a flower is a reminder of the crucial and beautiful relationship between animals and plants.
Worms and microbes feeding on waste and turning it to nutrients for plants. Spiders weaving their finest silks, all contributing to the worldwide web of life.
Biodiversity encompasses the countless species on Earth, their genetic differences and the diversity of ecosystems, such as forests, wetlands, and oceans, where living things, including humans, form communities, interacting with one another and with the air, water, and minerals around them.
Biodiversity is one of the world's most precious resources.
It provides us with the food we eat, cleans the air we breathe, filters the water we drink, and provides countless medicines.
It is also important to our culture, traditions and beliefs, and to people's livelihoods.
And yet, as a result of human activities, biodiversity, the web of life we all rely on, is being lost at an alarming rate. 2011 to 2020 is the United Nations Decade on Biodiversity. The decade aims to spur action to safeguard biodiversity and make people aware of its values and the steps we can all take to conserve and use it sustainably.
We are in Tokyo discussing biodiversity, and we are live on this webcast. Now, as we can see from that film, biodiversity is really part of our everyday fabric of life, isn't it? And that's what's so fascinating about this topic. Now, we have had the launches all over the world. Now, do you think it's time we moved from ceremony to action? What do you think?
Absolutely. Last year we have issued the Global Biodiversity Outlook, so the status of biodiversity in the planet in 2010. And the result, and the message is crystal clear. Postponing action is no more an option for humanity. And the future is today. And the status of biodiversity, so the status of life on Earth, for the million years to come, will be determined not in the century to come, but in the decade to come. Mm-hmm. So the time to act is now. And the rate of loss of biodiversity is unprecedented. So therefore, in Nagoya, thanks to the leadership of Japan, and I pay tribute to Japan for its achievement, the 18,000 participants, 193 government, the business community, the mayor, the parliamentarians got together and adopted a strategic plan with 20 strong objective targets. We call them Aichi target to be achieved before 2020. And this is, I think, a very strong commitment. Now the government are translating it at national level, at city level, and I am very confident that by 2020, we should be all very happy to see that the Aichi target have been realized and action has taken place.
Right. Action is what's important, isn't it? Do you agree, Yasaki?
Yes, I quite agree with this. You know, in a ceremony or a meeting, it cannot solve the problems, that it must be coincide with action. Mm-hmm. So our organization is really, action-oriented organization.
Right. And we'll learn more about your organization later on in the show. Yes. Now, Ahmed, I have another question for you. One of the key points of the decade is promoting awareness. Now, in fact, the first target under the strategic plan for biodiversity is related to public awareness of biodiversity. And what is being done to encourage this?
I think, as I said, the scientific definition of biodiversity. Mm-hmm. Biodiversity challenges cannot be met only by scientists. It cannot be only met by government or agencies, with all due respect. Mm-hmm. It's each and every citizen that need to be engaged in protecting life on Earth. And you cannot protect something that you don't know. And you cannot value something that you don't know. So therefore, the International General Assembly, thanks to the leadership of Japan, it was Japan who suggested that 2011, 2020, which coincide with the 10-year strategic plan, should be accompanied by a huge public awareness campaign to engage each and every citizen on the need to have this paradigm shift and creating a new relationship between man and nature, and therefore be able to live in harmony with nature into the future.
Fascinating. Now, Yasaki, what do you think? What can people and organizations do to get involved, in your opinion?
Well, this the biodiversity issue is really important. It is directly, come to the life of the people. For us, OISCA is really, engaging in this, kind of activities that by working in the field, grassroots level, for the to convince the local people to become more aware about the importance of the protecting biodiversity and environment.
Right. So, what is OISCA really doing? Tell us more about what you do and how it supports action.
Well, OISCA, since its establishment in 1961, we have been working for the cause of the environmental conservation and environmental education, and also agricultural development in the different countries, especially in the Asian and the Pacific region. It is, really important that the developing countries must understand this the situation. It is really, devastating, the situation of the biodiversity condition in their localities. So while we are doing this development or the cooperation into these countries, and we also ask them to understand what is importance of the protecting biodiversity and the environment through our movement and our project activities.
Really important work, isn't it? Now, OISCA is also a partner in the Green Wave, isn't that right? Now, we actually have a short film here that will tell us a bit more about Green Wave.
The Green Wave is an exciting project to help children and youth, their parents, teachers and friends learn about biodiversity and take action to protect it.
In a special event each year to mark the International Day for Biodiversity on 22nd May, Green Wave participants join hands around the world to celebrate life on Earth.
At 10 a.m. local time, young people in schools and groups hold an event and plant a single tree at or near their school, creating a green wave of action across time zones around the world.
Participants upload photos and stories of the event to the Green Wave website that go live on the online map at 2020 local time, creating a virtual green wave across the world.
Since 2008, over 4,000 groups and schools from at least 70 countries have taken part.
Exciting stories were shared by thousands of participants from as far apart as Japan, Nicaragua, Brazil, Spain, Tunisia, Malaysia, Bangladesh and Canada. Just some of the countries that took part.
A tree is a micro-world of biodiversity, supporting a host of living things in the soil, on its bark, branches, fruit and leaves.
And for today's children, tomorrow's citizens living increasingly in urban areas with indoor pastimes, it provides a simple way to connect with and learn about nature.
Now, so it is important to educate the children of the world. Education is the key here, as we saw in that video. But how do we educate children of the world, Yasaki?
In fact, we have been doing in different projects, especially for the development of agriculture and environmental conservation projects such as, tree planting and mangrove plantation and protection, rehabilitation of the coral reefs. So within this project area, the people will understand what is the importance of the environmental protection and biological diversity protection. But outside project, it is very difficult to understand the other people's outside project. So we have come up with the some sort of environmental education program that will link with the schools. So through the school premises, the people will understand. The people will come to the schools, and then get involving children themselves. The children will understand what is the importance of the protecting forest and its environment and biodiversities. So once children get involved in this kind of activities, the parent will also protect their environment. I mean, the trees planted by their own children. So this gives big impact to the community itself. So through these activities, we educate the other people also. So OISCA so far, implementing this Children Forest program, over 4,400 schools in 28 countries. So it is, being, becoming popular in the local areas, especially in the developing countries in the Asian and Pacific region.
Fascinating that the effort is really penetrating.
Yes.
Now, each year the Green Wave will contribute to the worldwide celebrations of the International Day for Biological Diversity. How does this work, Yasaki?
Yeah, actually, OISCA has been participating in this Green Wave movement since 2009. And this year, actually, year designated as International Year of Forest, in which, the UN decade on biological diversity started. So OISCA has, exerting further effort in, awareness awareness, keeping awareness for among the local youth, and to achieve this goal of to understand the people, to protect the environment and biological diversities.
Just quickly, Ahmed, you said you have your opinion regarding Green Wave. It's so important in your perspective as well.
It's so important because it relates to the citizens of tomorrow. And the children of today are living in an urban area, far removed from nature, in a virtual world, completely disconnected with nature. And we call it nature deficit gap. And as I said, how you can value something or protect something that you don't know. So the Green Wave is a fantastic campaign to establish a chain of solidarity among the children of the world, and to allow the children, as Oscar has just demonstrated with what they are doing, in building their future. So therefore, being a stakeholder in ensuring that their future will be green. So it's one of the most fantastic and exciting experience that we are supporting in the Secretariat.
Indeed, very, very exciting. We'd like to hear more from you. But for now, I would like to move to the next segment where we'll be taking the questions live. So join us for part 2, and then your questions will be answered by our expertise guests. Now, the questions are coming in from all over the world. You have indeed been sending the questions, and the first one comes from Rodriga, and this is actually a tweet. Interesting. Hello, and what is the main difference between biodiversity and ecology? Ahmed, would you like to take up on this one?
I think they are the same part of the same coin. Biodiversity is part of the ecology. And there is no sustainable development, as it is coined in the UN, without protecting biodiversity. So it's the pillar, as I said, of life on Earth.
Right, front and back of the same coin, you said. Now, we have another question here coming in from Maui. Is it from Maui? And do you agree that identifying species is key to sustaining them? Yasaki, what do you think?
Identifying the
species? Yeah. Do we need to first identify the species?
Yeah, I think it is really important that, the biodiverse species, especially, species is really, relevant to the, when it comes to the food production and food security, and, to maintain the, sound environment.
Now, Ahmed, here is a question for you from Samuel. Will there be any legal enforcement on the achievement of the goals on the Decade on Biodiversity?
This is, I think, what makes also this agreement in Nagoya last year unique. Not only the government and their partner have agreed on 20 strong targets to be achieved before 2020, but they have also identified means of implementation, but also monitoring and evaluation.
Excellent.
So there is no enforcement, but there will be a national report submitted by all government in 2014 to have a midterm evaluation of the commitment and the implementation of the commitment, and a national report also by government in 2019 to say how they have implemented this. And this is the first time, of course, that the government have accepted to have such a reporting mechanism.
Right, interesting. Earlier we said, it's no longer the ceremony, and we're actually seeing the action. Now the next question is for Yasuaki. This is from Israel. It came in from Israel. How will biodiversity contribute to advance agriculture and to ensure food security for the masses? This question came in indeed from Israel. Interesting. Would you like to comment on this, Yasuaki?
Yes. Actually, that is really important. When it comes to the agricultural production, actually we emphasize, organic farming. That is really needed for the organic, what you call microorganism. That is also part of the biodiversity. And that, contribute to enhance the production, yield of the production, the activity of the microorganism, that is a species of the bacteria that help, enrich the soil fertility and also to enhance the growth rate of the crop. So it is really, important that utilizing biodiversity into the crop cultivation in the food security issue.
Now we have questions pouring in, Ahmed. The next one goes to you from Anisatu. How will the work of this organization to keep biodiversity, how does it work in the world when economic importance is at odds with the importance of the nature? Are they really in conflict, economic advancement and the nature? Perhaps you can comment on that too.
I really don't know. I don't think so. I really don't think that the economy is the enemy of environment, and the environment, protecting the environment, is destroying the economy. There will be no economy and no growth in the future if the instrument and the capital of this growth is not maintained. Do you know, for example, that 98% of all the export earning of Africa, one of the poorest continents in the world, is from biodiversity? Do you know, for example, that the GDP of Brazil, 40% of all the GDP of Brazil is from biodiversity? So the long-term interest and development lies on the protection of this machinery and this capital, which is nature. We call it capital nature.
I was so happy to hear that the two doesn't have to be enemies with each other. Now, the next question is a tweet from Facility Alice. To achieve true biodiversity, surely you need to protect your biosphere sites. Is that true, Ahmed?
Can you repeat this?
To achieve true biodiversity, surely you need to protect your biosphere sites.
Of course, because as I said, biodiversity is the interrelationship among species, but also the relationship between species and their habitat. And I think which makes this Convention on Biological Diversity unique. It's the first time in adopting this convention that the government have agreed on what we call the ecosystem approach. You cannot protect a species, an animal, a plant, without protecting its habitat. So it's the interrelationship between species and habitat which make the Convention on Biological Diversity unique. The other, of course, is the ecosystem. For example, the Amazon basin, you cannot protect the Amazon only from Brazil. You have to have it with the 8 riparian countries. Likewise with the Congo basin, because nature doesn't recognize the imaginary boundaries of the states. So this is the ecosystem and transnational approach to biodiversity.
Right, and we have one that is culture related, a perfect question to address to Yasuaki representing OISCA. This one comes from Greg in South Africa, Cape Town. Interesting. How will biodiversity conservation contribute to social well-being in the future as conservation and culture can be in conflict? What do you think?
Well, no, this is a really good question, that the biodiversity is really, related to the cultural diversity. Each country and each community, they have different biodiversity and also different culture. So what OISCA is doing is, we are working in the over 28 countries in different regions and areas. And what we realize that the people in living in the different environment condition, and they respect biodiversity their own. So what we emphasize, we have to tell them that the importance of the making what Japanese term says furusato. It is a term of a sustainable community in harmony with nature. So the people, biodiversity, and the people in the areas must protect the biodiversity of their own areas. So it is difference of the countries and difference of the culture, and also it is the both all come together, one into the
And if I can add something, and it's for this reason that we are delighted and honored in the Secretariat to have a memorandum of understanding with OSCA, is that the development is also a cultural issue. And there is a strong link between cultural diversity and biological diversity. The more richer you are in biodiversity, the richer you are in your culture. And the more you lose biodiversity, the more you lose your culture. And therefore, I think there is this nexus between nature and culture.
Right. They kind of enforce each other and
Absolutely.
work together. I see. And there's another question in, this one is from Leslie in Canada. What are the 5 key actions for local government? Perhaps a perfect question for you, Ahmed.
I think I will refer to Nagoya as historical development and conference, because in Nagoya we had 650 representatives of municipalities, and it was the first time that we established a partnership between Minister of Environment, policymakers, and local authorities, because action takes place at local level, and the mayors and the local authorities have been recognized as an important player. And these 20 targets that I have referred, the Aichi target, are now implemented also at the city level. So we have an action plan on cities and biodiversity, and there will be a summit in Hyderabad in next year to follow on the implementation of this initiative, which is unique between cities and biodiversity.
Now, maybe we just have one more question that we can put through to you from the public. Now, I'd like to ask this question to both of you. First to Ahmed, and this actually comes from somebody who has the same first name, Ahmed. How can I, just one person, save our planet? What would you like one individual to do?
I think, as we say, a long journey starts with the first step. So I think as long as we wait until the others do something, the government, the NGOs, the business, I think each and every citizen has a responsibility to have a paradigm shift in our relation with nature. And to consider, for example, the water that we have, the air that we breathe, the forest, as not something infinite, and we can use it and abuse it, but something which is precious because it's finite, and therefore you have to use it very wisely. So, and this is, I think, the responsibility and each and every, and especially the young generation. I think we have to educate, and therefore we pay tribute to OSCA and the other partners that have allowed us to give a new impetus to this education program for youth and children.
And the same question to you, Yasaki. What would you like one person to do?
Well, it is very much related to his, or her lifestyle. What we are living here is all the blessing of this nature and the biodiversity. So even if you spend a piece of paper and you drink 1 cup of water and also some meals, you must be, careful to do it. I mean, to consume it, because it is really, a blessing of the nature, and you have to do something from your, living. I mean, from your lifestyle. Something like collecting garbage, or what is this petty things, but you must do something. Otherwise, action. Otherwise, you could not do anything. I mean, you could not achieve big things. So
So just to follow
little
on this,
things, every single step. Would you like to make a comment?
So the food production, for example, do you know that 30% of all the food that are produced are wasted?
Interesting.
And you have waste, for example, here in Japan, you have, I think 20% of all the waste are still in their packet from the supermarket. So this throwaway society, this overconsumption and overuse of natural resources, I think we have to stop it. And who is going to do it? Each and every of us have to do it.
We really need to change our mentality, and there are many, many things
Absolutely.
that people can do on individual basis. Thank you very much. Now, I'm afraid we are coming to the end of the show right now. Before we go, there's just time to point you in the direction of more information. To find out more on the CBD and the UN Decade on Biodiversity, please go to www.cbd.int. There you can also find more information on the strategic goals and targets. Also, feel free to add your comments and thoughts to the Facebook page, www.facebook.com/UN Biodiversity. That just leaves time to say thank you to my guests, Ahmet Joglaf and Yasuaki Nagaishi. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.